I keep waiting for some indication that Belos isn't completely tyrannical, that he has some flicker or spark of compassion or charity or some sort of moral goodness inside him. Not that that would balance out all the villainy he has committed, but just something to give us a less completely negative view of him. But instead, the show is going in the opposite direction, and every episode unveils new layers of callous cruelty inside him. He's not just megalomaniacal, he's depraved. He is wild-eyed and nightmarish, willing to destroy the world around him just to satiate his rage and rancor. Now, of course, Hollow Mind is not the first time Belos has threatened Luz, but it is the first time he has felt truly terrifying to me, instead of just being this rather ineffectual villain. There's a real uncertainty, a real febrile dread that ensconces and engulfs Belos. You don't know what he's going to do. He's wild and unpredictable beneath his calm, dignified, British demeanor. He feels in this episode like the Gothic lord of a decaying manor who seems so noble and thoughtful until you descend into the basement and see the evidence of the horrors that he is capable of committing. I feel like I've stumbled into The Fall of the House of Usher or some other macabre short story by Poe. The dread becoming ontological, creating a sense of warping distortion that leaves one completely disoriented. This is not a normal, mundane world anymore. This is a twisted, jagged, labyrinthine world where the normal rules of logic and reason no longer apply. We've crossed the threshold into a sickly, violent, disquieting realm. This is the darkest episode of The Owl House, by a significant margin, I'd say. Not just for the content, but for the general atmosphere and tone. And it is one of the show's best episodes. Now, that doesn't mean it's perfect. I have a few nitpicks here and there, like I always do. Luz's ardent disdain for Belos seems to come out of nowhere. Now, obviously, she doesn't like him. She's never liked him. But she mostly has not thought about him this season. He has not been a major antagonist to her personally. Her main objectives have centered on creating a door, finding more about Philip, and getting home to her mom, and then being a little uncertain about whether she can repair her relationship with her mom. Belos and stopping him, that has not been a major priority for her, but that changes now. I think having her be so passionately anti-Belos is a little weird and a little bit different from how she's been characterized before, but it pays off because throughout the episode, she's constantly lording her sense of moral superiority over Hunter, talking about, oh, how can you possibly stick with someone like that? She's not cruel about it, but there is a certain sense of being better than Hunter, knowing more than Hunter, seeing further than Hunter. How can you not see that Belos is a wicked, cruel-hearted man? But then, at the end of the episode, the rug gets pulled out from Luz, and she's forced to confront that she's not really that different. Belos, listening to her statements of moral purpose, just chuckles and replays to her scenes in the past of her helping Philip Whittabane, and and her being so interested and obsessed with finding out all she can about Philip, Luce realizes with growing horror that Belos is Philip. That the person she was so excited to meet, the person who was the previous human in the Boiling Isles, the person whose diary she studied so extensively, turned out to be not only a jerk and a cold-hearted, callous person, but also the Emperor, who has caused her so much harm and discomfort throughout this show, and whose plans are even more vile and eerie and disquieting than we have hitherto known. He's a man with nihilistic, apocalyptic ambitions. It doesn't seem that he wants to fuse together the human realm and the Boiling Isles because he's seeking conquest or domination. He doesn't even seem to have any respect for the people who worship him. What he wants is to destroy witches. He loathes them, and he seeks their destruction. Perhaps he believes that the people of the human world will help him with that. This is the person that Luce was so enthralled by, and when she realizes that, she suffers a breakdown, not as extensive as that which Hunter goes through, but it's still a shattering of her basic sense of moral superiority. It undermines those grandiose statements that she makes as saying that she always knows what's right and what's moral and what Hunter and everyone else should do in opposing Belos. She was fooled too, and now she has to try and pick up those shattered, broken pieces of herself and figure out how to stop Belos and how to incorporate the knowledge that Philip is Belos into her framework about getting home, which still has been so focused on Philip even after she learned how cruel he was. Both she and Hunter placed their trust, foolishly and unfortunately, in a cackling, bitter-hearted megalomaniac, and they both have to try and endure an existential crisis in which they really lose all sense of themselves and all sense of purpose and all sense of basic coherence and harmony in their lives as they try to figure out how to respond to the fracturing they have just endured internally. Speaking of Hunter, the Grimwalker theory everyone was discussing this whole last year turned out to be true, and it's devastating for Hunter's basic sense of self. He stays with Belos not just because Belos elevates him to a position of power and authority, but more than that because he has always thought that Belos actually cares about him and believes in him, and in his weird way wants the best for him, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like Belos is just using him, just thinking of him as a thing, an object to further his own practical ambitions. Hunter is just a clone. He's just the version of Philip's brother that listens to Belos and does whatever Belos wants, and is of use to Belos only insofar as he listens to everything Belos says. Once Hunter stops listening to Belos and rebels against him, he's of no use to Belos, and Belos will treat him accordingly, as happened with all the other Golden Guards before Hunter. Hunter has an expiration date, and it's coming up soon. Perhaps even sooner than Hunter in his wildest, most despairing fears even anticipated. Hunter has to leave Belos. I'm sure he knows that now, but he's in a state of shock and denial. He would rather deny that he knows a lot about mindscapes, even though he's thoroughly studied them, than accept that his knowledge about mindscapes is right, and Belos is that twisted and that unstable. Belos, it is heavily implied, killed his own brother because his brother had an affair with a witch. These scenes are made clear on the paintings in Belos' mindscape. Even the Day of Unity appears to be nothing more than a convenient and ritualistic way to kill a large number of witches. And that seems to be Belos' focus. That's the reason he's doing it, even if he also wants to go to the human world. What is going to stop Belos? His ambition is unchecked. He is not this cold, calculating, far-sighted villain. He's very human in his pettiness, his bigotry, his shallow resentment. But his propagandistic abilities to turn people to his side make that shallowness, that pettiness, that instability genuinely dangerous. Luce is going to have to realize that her main objective is to stop him. She can't afford to ignore that objective at this point. It has to be priority number one. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. I love Hunter's reaction when he realizes the depths of Belos' depravity and immorality. His rage and his despondency just bubble up in him until he can't contain them anymore, and his basic sense of identity just shatters. So anyway, tune in soon for the next analysis. It will be coming soon. Promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.